my friend, and welcome to the Zendo. Today, I'd like to talk about discovering your true self, your true original nature. You've probably already heard a lot about this and have many ideas about what this is, and perhaps teachers have tried to explain to you what this is or told you what this is, or your imagination is just running wild with what your true self is, what your true original nature is. It's not as difficult to discover as you may imagine. The way you find out what truth is you let go of everything that is not truth, and what remains is truth. It's a simple process to understand, isn't it? You let go of everything that is not truth, and what remains is truth. And so it's the same with your true self, your true nature. You let go of everything that you're not, and what remains is what you are. Now the challenge comes because we've been conditioned to believe that we're something, that we're someone. And yet if we really look, it's pretty hard to find exactly what this someone is. Isn't it? I mean, you may think in this moment, well, I'm sitting here listening to Peter on a video. That's who I am. In another moment, you may be feeling sad, and that's who you are. You're the sad one. Another moment, you may be very happy or feeling great peace. Then you're the happy one, or the peaceful one. Another time, you're frightened. Then you're the frightened one. You identify with all these experiences as what you are in that moment, don't you? But which one are you? The happy one? The frightened one? The sad one? The peaceful one? The loving one? The enlightened one? Which one are you? You see, if you really look, you realize that this self that you identify with is changing all the time. It never remains the same from one moment to the next. Even while you're listening here, thoughts are coming up and feelings are happening, and each time it's a different you that you're identifying with as you. Well, that's not your true self. Your true self doesn't change like this. It doesn't change at all. And I think if you really look inwardly and feel who you are, you know that it doesn't change. You know that there's something about you that hasn't changed. When you were 5 years old, that you felt was not changing. When you were 20 years old, that you felt as you was not changing. And now, whatever age you are now, that you is not changing. It's unchanging. That's the true you. That's the truth of what you are. You might say it like this. I'm sure you may have done this practice of I am, this meditation on I am. I am without adding anything else. Just I am. I exist. Do this for a moment. Let yourself identify with just being, just pure being itself, just isness. I am. Now this is very pure. The I am, this isness, this beingness is not changing. If the illusory self, the character that you identify with, is unhappy because something has happened in your life, this I am, this true beingness, this isness, is not affected by that. If something wonderful comes into your life and you feel overjoyed, the I am is not affected by that. If something traumatic happens to you, you lose the love of your life, the I am is completely unaffected by this, by everything that's happened in your life. For your whole life, from birth up to this time, your beingness, your isness, has been unaffected by all the things that happen. You may have found, you may have gone through a year where you felt enormous suffering. But the I am, your isness, was not affected then. It's not affected by anything. It just is. It just is. And this is you. This is your true self. This is the subject. And this subject is aware of all the objects that you identify with, all the many yous, the happy you, the sad you, the depressed you, the excited you, the hopeful you, the hopeless you, the you that feels you're not good enough, the you that feels you're better than everyone else. All these yous you're aware of, aren't you? You're aware of all these changing yous. You're aware of their changing. You're aware of your identification with them. Not your identification, because your true self doesn't identify with them either. But something does. Something identifies with all these different yous and has a feeling that they're continuous, that they're stable and unchanging and real and are what you are. That's why when something happens in your life that makes you feel unhappy, you're unhappy because you identify with this unhappy you. You identify with this separate I, this personal I, this unique individual I, which you don't really pay attention to, that it's changing all the time. It doesn't have any solidity. It doesn't have any reality to it. It's not the same from one moment to the next. Throughout your whole life, it's been changing. The imaginary separate I of 5-year-old is very different than the I of today, the I that you identify with today. And probably it was different 10 years ago. And it will be different 10 years from now. And even in a single day, it's changing all the time. So this cannot be you. This cannot be the true you. And if you really look, the feeling of I, it has a sense of permanence to it. It has a sense of unchangingness to it. Because it is. It is not changing. The challenge is that you can't identify with this as you do with these false selves. Because these false selves you can hold in front of yourself and look and say, oh, I see this, I'm aware of this. And you can't be aware of your true self in the same way, because your true self is not an object of your awareness. It's the subject. It's you. Just as your eyeball cannot see itself, and a knife can cut many things, but it cannot cut itself. You are aware of many things. You're aware of all these different eyes that you identify with. You can see them and you're aware of them, but you can't be aware of the subject. The subject is the one that's aware. That you cannot be aware of. You are it. You are it. You cannot hold the true self, the truth of what you are in front of yourself and say, I'm that. So any thought you have about it is not it. That's another object that you're aware of. Your true self, you have to go very deeply in And when everything else falls away, when all the objects that you're aware of fall away, when all the identities that you identify with fall away, what's left is this essential nature, this true being, and that is what you are. That is your true nature. That is your true self. Always unaffected by all the objects it's aware of. Not attached or identified with anything. In order to have an identity, you need to be able to hold something in front of yourself and say, that's what I am. I am the unhappy me. I am unhappy. I am happy. I am at peace. I am awake. I am enlightened. All these different things you can hold in front of yourself and say, yes, that's what I am. And identify with them. But your true self, you cannot do that with. You cannot do that with the subject. The subject will always remain the subject. If you hold it in front, it's just another object. It's not you. So I can be, as Peter, aware that I'm speaking to you through this video. I'm the one that's speaking to you through this video. But I'm aware of that. So that's not me. I can even be aware I'm the one who's not attached or identified with this body. I'm free. I'm the one that's free of this identification, free of these thoughts. But I'm also aware of that. So that's not me. I'm aware of my beingness, free of this body, this infinite, eternal beingness. Yes, I am. And that's also not me, because I'm aware of it. I'm the subject. I'm what's aware of this. And as we keep opening deeper into this true being, this true self, it reveals more and more of what we are. But all those things that we're aware of are subjects of our awareness, even though they're expanded far beyond where they used to be when we identified with an individual, personal self. Even though it's far beyond that, it's still a subtle attachment, a subtle objective, a subtle identification. And we're aware of this. And what's aware is the subject. What's being, what's pure being is the subject. Even to say I am, we realize the I is quite superficial and not necessary. Beingness alone is enough. And yes, we're even aware of that. So what we are, the subject, is beyond even beingness, beyond experience, beyond I, certainly. And in truth, there's nothing that we can say about this. Anything we could say would just be a thought, an object that we could hold up and see and be aware of. But the subject itself we cannot be aware of in that way. We simply are this. And the more we settle back into this, to meditate deeply and ask this question, what am I? What is my true being? What is my true nature? And every time we have an answer, realize that's just another object of awareness. That's an object that I'm aware of, so it cannot be me. And as we keep doing this, we keep unraveling deeper and deeper and deeper, letting more and more of these superficial illusions fall away. And what's left is your true self. And yes, it's a long exploration because it can go deeper and deeper and deeper. As you can see, we can be aware of our formless nature. And it's beyond that. We can be aware of our infinite freedom. And it's beyond that. We can be aware of ourself beyond all attachments and all identification. And it's also aware of that. And the deeper we go into this true self, the more it reveals to us. Each layer we shed reveals more of what it is. Every layer it sheds reveals more of what it is. So we keep letting go. We keep allowing it to reveal more to us. And that itself is an infinite journey. Because this is depthless. This is infinite. This has no beginning or end or time. Before this body existed, this was here. After it no longer is, this will still be. Enjoy your discovery.